Joining us now is Becky Vevea, the WBEZ government and political reporter. And Lauren, Becky, we have a lot of politics going on this week, but let's just jump in on some breaking news right now when it comes to the very crowded first congressional district race. SEIU local has just endorsed Pat Dowell, the third ward alderman. So let's just put it out there. It is a crowded race. We'll talk about some of the money that each is raising because the FEC figures came out this week. But Laura, is there any way one or even two endorsements in this race, when you have so many major contenders, can make a difference?
No, I think it's too early to say that, but right now apparently it's not working for Karen Orange and Reeves, who has been endorsed by the incumbent Bobby Rush, and and as Becky will tell us, she's sort of down there on the fundraising scale. So I think the most important thing right now is going to be looking at money in terms of viability, but I think it's wide open right now.
Right. On the other hand, there are 3,500 foot soldiers in the district, which if they are activated can mean something. Becky, so we know Alderman Rush is with Karen Norrington Reeves.
Right.
Actually, and here, let's talk about Jonathan Jackson for a moment. Right. He had very lackluster fundraising, but he has potentially one of the biggest names around. Is that going to help him that he is the son of Reverend Jesse Jackson?
I think certainly in terms of name recognition, it's a name people in the district have heard. It's kind of, the Jackson family is the same level as Bobby Rush in a lot of ways. I do think because it's a crowded field, the benefit of having ground foot soldiers will be a factor. I think if you can mobilize your base, this could end up being one with 15 to 20% of the vote. It's going to be won during the primary. There are, I think it's 19 or 20 Democrats on the ballot. They're going to be ruling today, I think, at the state board as to if anybody gets booted from the ballot. But Jonathan Jackson certainly has the name recognition. He does have some union transit workers, I think, are on his side. That's where he made his endorsement. And he also got the endorsement of Chuy Garcia, who's a very familiar name here in Chicago as well.
Yeah, but he hardly leveraged that, okay? He didn't even get the word out. He barely has a campaign organization from what I see in the terms of a smooth running thing. But to your point, Becky, and to Laura's point, I think the one to watch, though she got in late, is State Senator Jacqueline Collins. Given the few weeks she was in, we can't assess her fundraising really, but she has a whole coterie of state senators to help her fundraise and who have organizations that probably can help her in organizing a campaign. And just so our listeners and viewers know, when we talk about the 15 to 20 that Becky meant, it's a plurality win. Mm-hmm. To get the nomination, and the nomination is tantamount to being elected. So
there's no runoff. I think people are used to the runoff scenario in the mayor's race.
I mean,
they think it's going to be another round, and there won't be another round among the Democrats.
No, I'm saying it's being elected, getting the nomination in the Assembly Democratic District where there's nominal Republican candidates. So my point is, we could have a winner, which Becky said 15. I think it'll be 18 to 21% on it, which means someone with the base going in, whether it's a ward, though not all the third ward is in the district, or a big chunk of Jacqueline Collins, a state Senate district, not all is in. But I think you need something to give you a running start. So to that point, Jonathan Swain is a Hyde Park businessman who raised the most money, more than $300,000. But what does he do now to make himself emerge from the pack, Becky, then Laura?
Sure. So I think his money is gonna, obviously I think Dowell edged him out a little bit, but that was in part because she had flipped a lot of her campaign from the Secretary of State's race that was like a whole year's worth of fundraising that kind of pivoted into this race. But, certainly Jonathan Swain will have a challenge in getting his name out there. He's got the money now to do it. He if you look at his resume, he does have pretty deep knowledge in city government and in the business community. And so to the extent that he can leverage those various pockets, he runs a nonprofit for black men to go back to school. He has the beverage center. He also has experience at the Department of Planning in city government. Certainly Dowell has a lot of the city government.
That's the point. Everybody has good resumes in the very top tier. Okay. And so that I guess is the thing where I'm trying to get to get to the bottom of this. Everybody in the very top tier has a good story to tell, even ones that we might not be mentioning right now. We have people that have run agencies. So what is, as we move to other topics in a minute, Laura, what is the secret sauce that somebody has to, so if everybody can make the case, I have a story, I'm qualified, I know government politics, the money is really not a big enough difference at this stage in the first quarter reports for us to divine anything per se. And it's not one overwhelming endorsement that's going to do it unless something happens that we don't know about yet. So what can make the difference here?
Well, I think one difference, and this doesn't narrow it down by much, but the women in the race, I think, have an advantage, and especially if they can make the case. This would be the first time a woman would serve in that congressional district. It's been an African-American district forever. It's a historic African-American district in terms of the people who served in that role, but there's never been a woman, and there's several high-profile women, some of them we've just mentioned. So I think that if I were a woman candidate in this race, I would really be playing that up, not just the fact that I'm a woman, but also my bio, and also what the issues are that are out there that women are going to gravitate to, because women tend to vote at higher levels, particularly in this district, than men do.
Excellent point, because at least that's a way of getting, winnowing down the field, even if it turns out, as we head towards the June 28th primary, we discern the front runners are for women. At least you got to narrow the pack somehow, unless you really think, I already have my 18% base, somewhere in there is 16. I just have to find 2. So let me have as many people in there. So everybody's going to have a strategy. So we're going to move to a new topic. And this is a story that's just developing. The city of Chicago and with their allies in the state are going to be bidding for the 2024 Democratic Convention. And we're in the crash weeks now, because the request for proposal came out a few days ago and the bid is due May 27th. Convention for Chicago, Becky, good, bad, and different?
Are you asking me in my opinion? I'm not sure. I'm a little
analysis. Look politically, it will be in a presidential year, it'll be the year after the mayoral, but the funding of it and who gets what will be on the table as we go into the 2022 and midterm elections and the 2023 mayoral race.
It's going to depend on who you ask. Good if you are in the tourism industry, if you are the mayor, this is good. It puts you on a national stage. She already talked a little bit about, all of the wealth of, a restaurant comeback and a hotel comeback. If we can host something like this, it would really revive the city. And that's why they're seriously going to put together a bid. I think also for Lightfoot and Pritzker, putting them on a national stage in a way that, as the host city, you get recognition. I don't know. I don't sense, again, it'd be after the mayoral, and I don't know enough about their own beyond the Illinois and Chicago world if they are interested in national politics, either of them, but certainly it puts them on a national stage. And again, the economic blitz you get from that kind of event. Bad, I guess, if you are, if you are a resident that doesn't necessarily want the crowds, doesn't want the traffic, doesn't want the kind of cacophony. And as we know, Chicago has hosted some tumultuous conventions in the past. And so that's sort of a certain factor, I would think.
Okay, so we lived through 1996, everything went smoothly. And if you lived in a neighborhood, you probably wouldn't have known it was happening. Laura, what do you think?
Well, I think that Becky nails it when she talks about the national exposure, not only for J.B. Pritzker and Mayor Lightfoot, but also for the Democratic National Committee. It's important for them to have a host city that will glow, that will look good on television, that will be able to accommodate the huge numbers of people who will be coming there, will have enough hotels, keep everybody happy. But I also think that, you know, they may not want to admit it, but both Lightfoot and Pritzker have national ambitions. Pritzker's name has been thrown around as a presidential candidate. He had, you know, he says he's not interested, but they always say that till they are. And so, and the same with Lightfoot's, but every chance she gets, she's out of town trying to cultivate national audiences. So this would be an incredibly valuable spotlight for the two of them to share and to get some national street cred out of it.
Okay, so here's the thing though, that actually having, I don't think mayors and governors in the end that the event is so overwhelming and we will have an incumbent president. It's not all that, but let me point out and what is more powerful if we want to put Illinois on a national stage. The Democratic National Committee is seriously considering changing the way we nominate Democratic presidential nominees. Right now, Iowa and New Hampshire have a lock as states 1 and 2 in those first presidential votes. There is a lot of thought to change the system, and the DNCs at one of their recent meetings is changing the bylaws. There's going to be an application process for states to apply if they want to be an early state. So we have a June primary now, but this is a one-off of the census. We usually have a March primary. We could change these primaries when, you know, by the legislature. It's no big deal if there's a will. I put this on the table for discussion. If you want to really increase the profile of Illinois, don't we have to go and make the argument that because we are one of the most diverse states in the nation, we should get in line to have one of the early votes? What say you, Laura, and then Becky?
Well, of course, that's a no-brainer. I think would be great for Illinois politically and in terms of its national standing if they could move the primary up. So I you know, if there's an opportunity to do that, so be it.
But
yeah.
But that would also mean that we would have an early primary the same year that we would have a convention. So given internal DNC politics, I don't know if the DNC would give somebody something twice, because in terms of an economic boost to from things, you get a really big economic boost from, and it's statewide, it's more than Chicago, when you have primaries going on. I mean, the TV commercials alone are a lot of money, but it doesn't, the hospitality industry doesn't get the big shot in the arm that it would clearly with the convention coming in. So I'm sure we'll be readdressing this as time goes on, but let's keep an eye on what our Democratic leaders want to do about the primary. And if they think you have to make a decision between one or the other. We have a few minutes left. So Mayor Washington, Willie Wilson giving out gas cards. Is this going to turn a mayoral election? And can Willie Wilson just really base his campaign on giving out gas cards? We'll have to see if he reports this on his finance disclosure now that he's an official candidate, by the way. This is, I think there's a point where you have to say, are you just giving out cash to people? Because a gas card is a form of a gift, like cash.
Right, but he's saying that this is not political money. This is his personal money that he's been.
It is, because his campaign is his personal money. He doesn't get to decide, I believe, under rules on this.
He has to report everything he spends. I mean, that would mean he did report, the new furniture he bought, if that were the case. I mean, he's running a campaign. He's claiming that this giveaway is completely separate from the campaign. He's not talking about it in the context of the campaign. So he's going to say that this is his personal money and he does not have to, doesn't have to account for it. So I think we're going to probably have to get a ruling on that.
Yeah, there's also questions about what Lightfoot's giveaway is, given that it's bankrolled by tax money. I mean, it's bankrolled by the city budget. There was a big hearing yesterday, and aldermen, it narrowly escaped committee by a vote of 15-12, and aldermen who were against it were saying they just really don't think this is It's a shot in the arm, it's a gimmick, it's not sustainable. $12.5 million in the city budget could fund a lot of things that are not just 2 tanks of gas for 50,000 people. And I think there are questions and criticisms coming her way from inside City Hall. That said, they've dotted their I's and crossed their T's, and I'm sure they've run a lot of this through ethics already, and it's a little like universal basic income, that guaranteed basic income programs. If they frame it as a program, it's written out in ordinance, it's not a political giveaway, but it certainly, some people took issue with the fact that her name is on these cards, and Pat Dowell, the budget chair, said, look, your check has her name on it. So it's an interesting and awkward dance, and it's a moment of incumbent advantage, if you will.
And with that thought, we've done the convention, gas cards, and Congressional District 1, all ripe areas I'm sure we'll be talking about in the weeks ahead. Becky, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much.